India, since July 1st, I left home. I have not returned to my country yet. Raju has seen my country later than I have. He has been to Brazil after I left. India is the 17th country that I visit since July 1st this year. And people ask me, Mario, don't you ever get tired? You get jet lag. I think that a person, man or woman, who is elected for the presidency of Rotary International cannot waste a single minute. People ask me, are you going to take vacations? I said, yes, July 1st, 2026, after I'm done. And I get the good energy from attending meetings because the Rotarians give me the energy. It's like a Tesla vehicle. When I need to plug in, I plug into you. And lately, since September, I have attended the institutes. I attended one in Bonn, Germany, and 3 in North America. One in San Antonio, Texas, the other one in Spokane, Washington. And this last weekend, I was in Toronto, Canada. One of the interesting things is that I've seen a lot of people from India who immigrated to those places, especially North America, especially the US. And one of the ladies, a PDG who was my aide in Spokane, Washington, she said, Mario, please tell my compatriots to send information to us here in North America where their parents or their relatives are, because we want to make them Rotarians in North America. I thought it was very interesting because it was a suggestion very pragmatic. So if you have relatives in US, you can send Raju or you can send me the names and I'll contact so that your relatives can become Rotarians in the United States. This presentation I'm making in the United States as a warning, because I'm telling them what is happening to membership globally, specifically in the regions where membership is dropping. You guys are on the good side of the equation. The Americans are not. But I'm not here to please anybody. You happen to be on the good side of the equation, but I tell the Americans that they are on the negative side, and they better get up and start working on membership. And you're going to ask me, Mario, why is your fixation on membership? You only talk about that. And I'll tell you my moment of epiphany. I was trustee of the Rotary Foundation in Atlanta for the convention in Atlanta, Georgia. Who was there? 3 people. I was a trustee and I had a chance to participate in the International Polio Plus Committee. One of the members was somebody that you have known for a while. His name is Raja Sabu. And we were having this conversation with our partners, Gates Foundation, WHO, UNICEF, Center for Disease Control. And I asked the CEO of Gates Foundation, at that time it happened to be a woman, why do you give us $100 million every year? You could give this money to somebody else. So that you have an understanding what the Gates Foundation is. Mark Maloney will reach, thanks to your contribution, $2 billion this year, plus some change, 2.025, for the permanent fund. The Gates Foundation has 45 billion. So they are no less than 22 times our foundation. So she answered me, you know why I give you money? Because I don't have the volunteers that you have. I have to pay for a sandwich. I have to pay for a consultant. I have to pay for a taxi. Nobody works for free for the Gates Foundation. And we have 1.2 million volunteers yourselves that work for free. In some cases, you pay to work. Right, César? You're getting their money, right? So then I realized that our best asset, our greatest asset, is not the money. It's the people. And we have to take care of our people. We have to make membership our priority number 1, number 2, number 3. All the rest is consequence. Eliminate people from this room and the Rotary Foundation dies. Your project at the hospital I was visiting this morning dies. Anything related to the good that we promote in the world dies if we don't have members. And this is not happening in India, but it is happening somewhere else. And I'm going to show you the numbers. I love numbers. How do I make this work? Oh. So we have basically 3 scenarios. Can you give me this? Hello? So we have basically 3 scenarios. We have the positive side here. Oops. Growth, Taiwan, India, Philippines, and Korea. Those are the percentage of growth. You ask me, over how long? I never get 1 or 2 or 3 years because I don't believe in things that are not sustainable over a long period of time. Last year, you were there for the Institute in Bangalore. I said, please, no fake clubs. No fake Rotarians. We don't need that. You're growing 103%. Don't tarnish your numbers with fake numbers. You don't need fake numbers. You're already doing an outstanding job. Keep on doing an outstanding, clean job. Because if you chartered one single fake club, guess what are you going to be remembered for? or the fake club. And everyone will forget the 100% growth that you have had in 20 years. These numbers compare 2004, 2024. So they are long-term, they are healthy, they are sustainable, they are long-term, they are not fake. So don't fake. Stagnant countries like my country, Brazil, Mexico, Italy, stagnant, a little bit over, a little bit less. Some people say, no, Mario, you're not stagnant, you are stable. Stable is a good word for stagnant, right? If you want to get an euphemism, you say stable. There is no such a thing as stability in life. Can you freeze time? No. The clock ticks whether we want it or not. We're getting 1 second at a time older and older and older. So there's no such a thing as stability. You are either growing older or you're already dead. I hope you're still in the first phase, right? Getting older. So there's no such thing as stability. You are stagnated. You are stagnant. So Brazil is stagnant. I showed that in Brazil. They don't like it very much, but they're growing this year. They've taken pride. They said, we're going to show the world that when Rotary elected a president. I know, but I'm kicking. I won't say what I'm kicking. From day one, I said, don't embarrass me. You guys complained that Brazil had not elected a president for 30 years. The last Brazilian president preceded Raja Sabu. They were very close friends. Raja was 91, 92. Paulo Costa was 1990, 1991. I said, make me proud. Don't embarrass me. Don't shame me. But then we have the third part of the decline, and I showed this to the Americans. The first reaction is a big surprise because nobody tells the Americans the truth.
Nobody did.
I don't care. I said, you guys think you're the best? Improve those numbers. The American presidents don't tell the Americans that they are failing. Or, Raju, have you seen any criticism? No, nobody mentions it. They're afraid. I said, I'm not afraid to say the truth. That's what is happening. You lost almost 100,000 members in 20 years. India gained 86,000 in 20 years. America lost. I showed this same presentation on Saturday, 3 days ago. Great Britain and Ireland, Australia. I'm going to Australia and Great Britain and Ireland. I don't know why, but I was appointed to do this in all of those countries. I asked Stephanie, you really love me, don't you, Stephanie? But that's what usually happens. Great Britain and Ireland is very proud to have reduced the average age of Rotarians from 79 to 73. That's a big advancement. Huh? You're postponing your death by 6 years. If you think that's good, I don't know what's bad. But then they asked me, Mario, why are we losing members? I said, well, I really researching, doing some studies on why you're losing, but this is a very palpable number. Number of new clubs chartered in 2 years. We're still calculating the last The third year, which was 23, 24, Gordon's year, we're still doing the charts. But this is a very clear, transparent number. Central and Southeast Asia, meaning, Korea and Taiwan, they created 300 clubs in 2 years. India created 658 in 2 years. The numbers speak for themselves. Japan created 9. What's happening in Japan? Japan is disappearing from Rotary. They lost 42,000 members in 20 years. They still have 8% women only. The world has 27. The US has 32. Japan has 8. They're going to die an all-male Rotary Club. Proud of dying all-male Rotary Club. I don't know why they don't like women in Rotary. I'm still going to investigate. I have to go to Japan. Latin America created 218. GBNI, 26. Then the Brits asked me why they're not growing. I said, here. You don't have to be a genius. Africa is growing. Sub-Saharan Africa, Nigeria. I was in Nigeria in May. Nigeria grew 70% over the last 20 years. US and Canada. Look, 106 clubs, they have 9,000. Created only 106. I was a Q&A, questions and answers in Spokane, Washington. They like to provoke me. And they asked. And I answered. I said, you ask whatever you want. I don't know if we're going to like the answer, but you can ask. You have to have more kids. You're afraid of having kids. Because clubs are like our kids, right? If you don't create kids, whom are you going to leave your business to? What's your succession plan? Those are the same elements. Those are the same words I have been using in the US. They are, I know, scared with this crazy Brazilian guy who's coming up. But those are the numbers. They tell a story. Unless you don't want to, if you don't want to see, that's another thing. But I'll show you. I'll show you what's happening. And I use this 2 quotes that I like very much from this French poet. The trouble with our times is that the future is not what it used to be. The future was easy to tell. Not anymore. A company today is healthy. They fail in a product launch. In 3 years, they're broke. Right? It happens everywhere. So instability is the new normal. Nothing is stable. And if we want things to stay as they are, things will have to change. Just to remain the same. If you don't change, you are going to the dust of irrelevance. You are going to perish. It's not a very positive message, but it's an alert. It's not for you. You are doing fine. But can you imagine this? I'm telling the Americans. Their eyes are popping out of their sockets. Somebody's got to say the truth. How are we going to do this? So innovation. When you were interviewed to be Rotary International President, after you were selected for the person who interviewed, 6 are selected. Candidates vary between 10 and 20, depending on the year. In my year, I think last year was like 13 or 14. And 6 were selected, and they send you a 5-minute dissertation that you were supposed to give when you start the interview. That is followed by 9 questions, which you don't have a clue what it is. They might ask you anything. So you better be prepared. But this question first is, last year was, if you were elected Rotary International President, what are you going to do to promote new club formats to grow membership? So I did a little research. I had to prepare. And I like to study. So I went to study. And I discovered that who here has ever heard about satellite clubs? Okay. How many members of Rotary worldwide belong to satellite clubs? Huh? You can read. Out of 1.2 million, only 9,000. That's a shame. I mean, if we were a company, we would go bankrupt. Because this product was launched, how long ago? 8, 9 years? And still was not adopted. Maybe satellite clubs are not necessary in India. If you're doing legacy clubs, okay. But in some parts of the world, it is one of the tools that you can use to enhance membership. Because people are not so thrilled to become a part of a Rotary Club. It's not as attractive as it is in India now. My wife became a Rotarian after marrying me 40 years? We were 44 years married to the same woman. I'm still the first one. My dad used to tell me, son, he died, he had been married to my mom 60 some years. He said, son, never change your wife. You are going to move from one known problem to an unknown problem. So I never forgot what my dad said. I always, when I look at my wife, I said, not gonna change it. This problem I know. So I tried to convince her to be part of my club. She never accepted it. My club is very good. It has 4 permanent projects. This year celebrating 75 years. It was my dad's club. I started going to the club when I was 5 years old. He took me to the barbecue to raise money for the foundation. I'm talking about 61, 62. 1961, 1962. But she never wanted to be part of my club. My club has 110 members. I said, no. This is your thing, honey. I think your club is not big enough for both of us. Only 110 members. So I said, why don't you start a club? I want my club to start a satellite club when I am director. I want to use you as an example. And she said, okay. So she paired with Alici, And they started a new club in my dining table. 8 women around a dining table. Can you imagine what 8 women around a dining table can do? Form a new club. They can do a lot more, but they can form a new club. So they formed a new club in my dining table. Today they have 57 in a satellite club. And I asked her, why don't you become an independent club? She said, no. We hate Rotary paperwork. The bureaucracy, the reports, finance. We don't want that. We want projects and we want fun. We want to get together. They meet on Tuesday. They're meeting tonight. Last week they met in a brewery, drinking beer. Sometimes they go to a fashion show. Sometimes they just have a sandwich. They don't have commitment to food and lodging. They meet for a purpose. So there are new formats out there. Continuity. This term has become fashionable in Rotary. The first guy who spoke about continuity in Rotary was my president, Carlo Ravizza, 1999-2000. He was considered at that time an alien. He had flown in from Mars, not from Italy, where he was originally from. Continuity is easier said than done. Because when I talk about continuity, if I'm a selfish person, continuity for me is I establish the rules and you, my successor, follows. That's very easy. It's like democracy in some countries where the guy said, this is how we're going to do this, and you just follow. That's not continuity. That's autocracy. If you're telling people what to do after you without their commitment, without consulting them, this is no continuity. So we have to change mindset in Rotary, starting from the president. I called Sanku and said, Sanku, you have my commitment and promise. Whenever my board or I will be taking a decision that will impact your year, I'll give you a phone call. So whenever you district governors are making a decision that will impact your successor, be gentle. Call your successor, man or woman, and ask them, what do you think of this decision? This is continuity. Continuity for me equals humbleness, respect. Raju knows that I have suffered things about continuity.
That's why I laugh.
Because continuity is a change of mindset. We don't continue things in Rotary. We are discontinuous by definition. If you say to Mrs. Birla, or Reliance Group, or Tata Group, you're going to change your management from the president down to the shop floor manager every single year. You're going to have to deliver the same product. They're going to say, you guys are nuts. I invested money on you. Rotary will invest $12,000 in you next year. Do you know that? The assembly costs $6.5 million. Divided by 520, $12,000 for the International Assembly alone. So Rotary invests $12,000 on your training, and then he kicks you out. And invests $12,000 on your successor, and then kicks him or her out. How do we have continuity? So continuity for me is still a work in progress. It will take a long time before we actually promote continuity in Rotary, because we have to change our minds. We have to say, I have a 3-year rolling plan for membership. You have it. You have it. How are you going to engage your successor, your predecessor in the 3-year rolling plan? So you have to start thinking as a team, not as my year. We have to slowly drift away from the my year concept. It's hard because it involves egos. Who here doesn't have an ego? Raise your hand, please. We all have egos. Otherwise, we wouldn't be Rotarians. Rotary is basically about ego and service. But Rotary is ego. If you don't have ego, if you don't have a target, if you don't have a dream, if you don't have an objective, you don't join Rotary. And the bigger the function, the bigger the ego. Can you imagine the ego of the president of Rotary? But that's a good thing. It's not negative. We have to use the ego for a good purpose. You guys don't know what a Rotarian will do for a pin. So we are basically using the Rotary's ego for a good cause. But we have to keep continuity. Otherwise, we waste time, we waste resources, we waste talent, we waste people, we squander. So continuity is the guarantee that we'll keep the wheel moving ahead. And finally, partnerships. I'm not a genius. I learned from polio. Do you have the numbers of polio? Do you know how much polio cost? Polio was drowned by a president called Clem Renouf from Australia back in 1979. 6 weeks ago, I was in the place, Rotary Club of Matika, the neighborhood of Manila, Philippines, where the program was born. I was there. Clem Renouf thought, along with his district governor in Washington, D.C., called John César, who was on the IPPC committee with me. He was the person who recommended Clem Renouf that polio would be the disease to be eradicated with $100 million. $100 million today in polio covers 1 month. Because polio costs us $1 billion a year. 150 comes from Rotary, 850 comes from our partners. So we have invested $2.8 billion since 1985. Those numbers are on the GPEI site. Just log in and the numbers are there. The total cost of the program so far has been $22 billion US. So we are very good at taking money from your pockets. You are very good. taking money from their pockets. But we're better at taking money from somebody else's pockets. Do the math. We have raised 2.7, 2.8 billion with the help of Gates Foundation, and we raised 20 billion outside of our territory. So this is a lesson. We're very good at developing partnerships. We should leverage that for membership. Why don't we talk to the bar in India, the lawyers in India? Why don't we talk to the doctors in India? Why don't we talk to the engineers in India? Trade associations, business associations. I was the president of Brazilian Printing Associations from 2001 to 2011. We had 20,000 small businesses because printing is basically a small business. From these 20,000, I did some research. I could identify only 500 Rotarians. They're business leaders. Why don't we have more? Just 2.5%. Because we don't ask. Because we don't show what we do. We don't even have to sell. We just have to make a presentation and do our homework and say, this is the institution I belong to for the last 40 years, 30 years, 20 years, whatever. That's why I believe in partnerships. We have to take your behind from the chair and move into the directions of those potential Rotarians without lowering the quality. I don't want to fish for Rotarians out on the streets of Mumbai or the streets of São Paulo or the streets of Detroit. That's not what we do. We want to select people who share our values, who share our ideas. Those guys are in professions, institutions, academia, they are in universities, they are professors. They are professionals in good standing. That's the kind of public that we should target for. So basically, those are the three elements: innovation, continuity, and partnerships that we're going to preach for year 25-26. And I will conclude this presentation with a question, so you can go back home and think about it. A president of Rotary has to provoke you to think. I'm not here to teach you. I'm not here to tell you what to do. This is basic training. I'm here to raise the bar on your mind so you can reflect how to better improve our organization. That's my mission as incoming president, to elevate the bar, to show you strategy, to show you the numbers in a global scale so you can bring it down to your reality and make it work. And my final question is, I have 3 types of Rotary leaders. The first type is leaders who make it happen. The second type is leaders who let it happen. And the third type is leaders who are surprised by what happened. Which type of leader are you? Thank you.